You want some damage, huh? But you don't want to be playing none of that ZHP shit. Hey, brother, I fucking got you, okay? Maw of Mischief Elementalist. This puppy hits the dot cap pretty easy. And you know what? Can even hit the dot cap against the Uber bosses as well. Those slimy little snakes have 70% damage reduction. You know how much my damage really is then? 116 million damage. That's Ignite. Dot damage, baby. I love that. You ever played a dot build with a lot of damage? There's no jumping around. You don't have to sit there and get onto the boss right away. That's 100% uptime, baby. It's a pretty easy build to play too. It's got some buttons, but once you get enough damage, kind of just set it up, you blast it off, the boss dies. Rinse and repeat 4 times and you've done your Maven. So what's the skinny? Well, we're just taking our little buddy Stone Golem here, boosting his life all the way up, and we're gonna make him have a violently explosive death. Using this little helmet here called Maw of Mischief, kind of just slap her on. Get an ability called Death Wish. Put all your links in your helmet. Make sure your Stone Golem heads straight to the boss. And then you just channel your Death Wish. Just a little bit. You don't have to channel it too much, right? It's a quick channel too. To 13 minions it can target. It does it randomly. And when you're done, boom, they explode. Base damage equal to a percentage of the minion's max life. We take that. We play Elementalist so we can ignite super easy. Get a bunch of ignite damage. Shred some resistance. And most importantly, so these little puppies automatically respawn. So I don't have to do it myself. Because there's no way in hell I'm playing this build if I've got to resummon my golems every time. Hell no, dude. So this is what you do. Let's say Maven's coming down. You're looking at her. She's slowly making her way towards you. You're just going to summon some skeletons. Right before she gets down, you put down your Arcanist brand. You start channeling your Death Wish. She lands. They explode. And there you go. That's as complicated as the playstyle gets, really. All your minions explode. Huge ignite. The Arcanist brand is popping stuff off for you. You don't got to do a thing except wait for your golems to respawn. Summon a couple skeletons. Pop them again. Do another Arcanist brand. And yeah, you got to press the Malevolence button. But I mean, come on. You're a witch. Most of these witch builds are pressing Malevolence. I mean, pick up Elder's Battery. And Malevolence is a pretty nice aura. You get the extra duration, extends your stuff a little bit, and hey, if you want, you can take that Aura Mastery for 50 extra duration, but that's on you, not me, okay? And yeah, that's about it for bossing. Boom, you're kind of just shredding stuff. Pretty brain dead, very easy to play on bossing. And you kind of just pump. Pretty nice. This would be the build I would play if I wanted to do 20 hours of Maven on League Start. But that's not for me. I kind of want to stay awake this League Start. So I'm gonna choose a different build. But hey, some of you, I know my mod's one of them. Man, you guys love bossing. You just want to sit there and kill bosses. You want to do Uber Elder. You want to do Maven. You want to get to your Ubers. You want to, oh, dude, that new flask. Farm some Uber Cyrus. And there you go, dude. Now, how does this map, you might ask? So how do you clear once you swap to Maw of Mischief? We got these little buddies called Heralds of Purity. These suckers respawn when you kill stuff. So let's say you kill some stuff over there. They come back. Channel your Death Wish. You blow them up. Well, after you blew them up, you killed some stuff. And so they respawn again. Shield charge over there. Death Wish. Blow it up. Ignite Prolist. Shield charge that way. Use your Conviction. Boom. Flame Dash. Calls all your minions to you. Boom. And that's kind of how you clear with this build. We get that Convocation Mastery for that increased cooldown recovery rate. And the clear's not the best, right? This isn't Corrupting Fever Champion. This isn't Blade Fall, Blade Blast Occultist. Or literally any other poison build on Occultist using Flame Bear. But it's Ignite Prolift. You're fast with your shield charge because that one node, I can't remember, that gives you the minion attack speed thing. Makes minion attack speed affect you as well. I mean, it's not 5 out of 5, but it's 3 out of 5. And you could push it with enough skill. And for 5 out of 5 damage, that's not a bad trade, dude. 5 out of 5 damage with an easy playstyle. Don't forget that. How are we leveling? What are we going to do until we get Maw of Mischief? Well, Tai Killer's got you covered. We're just going to level like you normally would on a witch. Do Orb of Storm, Spark, Orb of Storm, Storm Blast Mine. You can do Freezing Pulse. You can kind of just do whatever the hell you want until you get Wave of Conviction and your normal lab. Then you just get to play Wave of Conviction Ignite all the way till you hit maps. You could do Arma Brand, Cremation Band, but that's a lot of buttons. Do you really want to be pressing that many buttons on League Start? You just play Wave of Conviction. It's got good damage. Applies your exposure. Easy as hell to play. Don't really have to aim it much. It's kind of good, dude. You slap Ignite Proliferation on there until you get a Barracks. And once you got a Barracks, this build starts popping off, dude. You get your Obliteration too. And since we're an Elementalist, remember? Elementalist, all their damage ignites. Your Obliteration explosions are going to ignite. Those Obliteration ignites, boom, are gonna spread. So now you just do a Wave of Conviction cast. Oh, goddamn screen is cleared of monsters. Sounds kind of nice for a League Starter. I fit enough damage, enough avoidance, enough mitigation. The recovery, you got to give somewhere, right? It's a league starter. Unless you're playing poison size. You got some life flasks, a little bit of life regen. And you just blast as that. Do it all the way through your Atlas. You could even farm red maps like this if you want. Do your Harbingers, right? Ignite Prolift on an Elementalist with Obliteration. That's a good Harbinger farmer. Now, we're out of budget for explosions. See? Got nothing left. I'm all petered out. Peter's all petered out. My Peter's all petered out. My Peter's all puttered out. So we're just gonna do that thing where I talk over a path of building for about 30 minutes. Because I got about 2 more of these to do. I'm running out of time. Oh, did I mention I got full crafting instruction for all this stuff? And this build guide's gonna be on maxroll.gg. It's got the Tai killer leveling. It's got the full gear progression, step-by-step hand holding. Come on, you want a bosser? Come with me. We're gonna go over the leveling, the early mapping, wave of conviction, gearing, tree skills. We got mid-game when you swap to Maw, how you swap to Maw, when to do it, what you need, and you know what it's gonna feel like, how you play it and whatnot. And then we got the end game where you're hitting the dot cap limit for normal bosses, and we've got the secret POE at the end where you hit the dot cap limit against even the Ubers, which is kind of absolutely bonkers to hit the dot cap against Uber bosses. I'm really excited. I kind of want to play that mid league. Honestly, just roll a bosser just to do that. Sounds kind of fun. But anyway, let's do the leveling quick. Leveling by Tai Killer. So make sure you thank him if you have a good time, or I should say when you have a good time. Make sure you go thank our boy Tai. It's weird, okay? It's 100% weird because what you're gonna do is you're gonna do Freezing Pulse and then you do Orb of Storms, you know, whatever. You got Holy Flame Totem, you've got Flame Wall. That's not too crazy. That's not too weird. You pretty much like you can do Spark, you can do Orb of Storms and Storm Blast Mine. You can do a bunch of stuff, but you're just being a witch and you're leveling with a vendor recipe until you hit level 16. And we're gonna pick up Wave of Conviction. And we're actually going to play a lightning-based Wave of Conviction because lightning damage has higher rolls and it has really, really good masteries early on. And there's some early lightning masteries right next to each other. We got the one here and the one up here. So you take the Fizz converted to lightning damage and you get Elemental Overload early on, which is really nice. You pick up the second lightning wheel here, and now you have lightning damage dealt with non-crits is lucky, which is a huge. So lightning, you know, it deals like 1 to 100 damage. That damage is rolled twice. Same way you have advantage in D&D. That's what lucky does for your lightning damage. And when you hit normal lab, you're going to take Shaper of Flames. And now you're igniting with lightning damage. And it works out really well because your lightning damage is lucky and you've got that Fizz conversion early on. You get extra cast speed and whatnot. It's really, really nice to have all of this lightning stuff. And you do the vendor recipe, which is vendoring a magic wand with a magic topaz ring and an alteration. And then you get a lightning damage wand. And now you get even more damage. And it sounds really, really bonkers. It seems goofy, right? You're igniting with lightning damage early on. If you're unfamiliar with Elementalist, you know, it seems a little goofy. If you're comfortable with her like I am, it seems really cool. So that's kind of exciting. That's a little neat. Then you just pick up Herald of Ash, Herald of Thunder. You still get the Fizz, gained as extra fire, which will help with your ignites. And you get cool Herald of Ash explosions and then, you know, more lightning damage. From this point onward, you're still going to use Orb of Storms with your Wave of Conviction. You're still going to blast that out. You put the Orb of Storms down. You cast your Wave of Conviction on top of it. Then you're just getting your Curse. You're changing your links around. You get some Determination action later on when Herald of Thunder kind of falls off. And yeah, you just change your links and you just follow the tree and bing bong boom, dude. You got a little bit of a respec when you're unspecking the lightning stuff, because eventually you are just going to go full into the fire Wave of Conviction, scaling all of the fire damage and whatnot, instead of doing the wonky lightning stuff. But yeah, that's the leveling. Now, so far, let's go through the early mapping setups. So until you get a Barracks Respite, you're going to use Ignite Proliferation here. So you would just swap out added fire damage for Ignite Prolif or whatever gem. You know, honestly, it doesn't matter too much as long as you just swap one out for Ignite Prolif. And you got to have Ignite Prolif. So most people are going to start with Ignite Prolif right away, unless you're doing this mid-league and you can somehow cop a Barracks Respite early on. So you start with Ignite Prolif. Then you would replace that when you get this cool ring, which spreads your ignites. It's really, really good. For auras, it's just Determination, Grace, and Tempest Shield to get a little spell block, since we're not going to gear Suppression right away. For quite some time, actually. We're not gearing some Suppression. So you just get Tempest Shield. Now you're immune to shocks, and that's pretty nice. We have a Malevolence, Inspiration, Divine Blessing. So as all witches pretty much do right now, is you go Eldritch Battery, and then you have a level 1 Divine Blessing. Since you probably won't have too much Energy Shield, I have Inspiration linked here to help out with that cost. If you have enough, you can swap that out and, you know, have something else here, but this really helps out, right? It goes from 574 to 443. We just barely don't have enough with this tree, but once you up your tree and get an Energy Shield piece, so you need some like ES gear with Holy Chainmail and a ES shield, and then you'll have enough ES. And once you up your tree and you have everything lined up, then it's all good to go. So you probably don't need to have combustion with your shield charge. I think they're fixing this, they said, with the patch. It's kind of a pain, but like it's there if you do it. And you're probably going to be shield charging and culling striking, right? You can kind of call the boss there. This is kind of like a little cheesy damage, but it is really nice, right? It's an extra 17% damage you could take advantage of by just shield charging into the boss and then using your Wave of Conviction. It's pretty nice. The big thing here is we're going to use Vixen's Entrapment to cast our Flammability, our Ellie Weakness, and our Punishment. So it gives us an extra curse, and we are going to be picking this up. You would pick this up, a little bit later. 75, you don't really need the 2 curses. So, once you're into yellow maps, you probably want that extra curse, but you could take it early if you want to have your Flammability and Ellie Weakness pop off right away. Before you get these gloves, Vixen's Entrapment, you can swap Punishment for Arcanist Brand. So I'll just put that there now. And when you do that, your Arcanist Brand is going to automatically cast your Flammability, Ellie Weakness, and your Flame Surge, which is really nice. After you get Vixen's, these gloves give additional curse, and they also will trigger all of your other curses when you cast a curse. So you will swap to manually casting one of these curses. It doesn't matter which one, because when you do one, it'll do all the others, and then you'll have to manually do your Flame Search as well. So that is, you have to press some extra buttons, but that's because you get extra damage for it, right? And it's really, really nice. I have the punishment calculated for in POB here, but it's just a nice little way to boost your damage to make sure that your early bossing and, all of that stuff as you clear the Atlas isn't going to feel really bad. And these are like pretty cheap as far as uniques go. If they're not cheap, I would just not bother. Just use the Arcanist Brand. It's an easier playstyle anyway. And you could just replace this with any other, rare glove. Just fill your res out because we won't be using these for Maw, so it's not going to be worth much. It's kind of just a way to get extra damage early on. And then we just have cast when damage taken, Molten Shell, Defiance Banner, and we're using Infernal Cry. This is another button that you'll want to press on bosses. It'll apply Ash, so they take increased fire damage. So there's just a lot of little ways that we can squeeze out a little extra damage, right? You shield charge onto the boss to combust them because all of your damage ignites, so we don't even have to have any chance to ignite, right? Because we're an elementalist. So boom, you get your combustion there. You can culling them. That's a little cheesy. Most people probably won't cull, but if there's a really tanky monster and you're shield charging around, it can cull it pretty easy, and we don't really have too many other links or sockets to use here, any other gems. So if you are socket starved, these two would be really easy to drop because you don't really need them right away. But later on, it's kind of nice, there's a little extra damage. As far as gear goes, we use Obliteration because it's insane on Elementalist. It's super fun. If you guys have never played Obliteration Elementalist with Barracks for Spite, it's a blast. It's super, super fun. I almost want to just boot this up just to play that, because your Obliteration explosions have Ignite, and that Ignite will prolif. And now you just have explosions that are proliferating ignites that explode, and then they spread their ignites, and it's just screen wide clear. It's an absolute blast to play. As far as shield goes, you just get life. Try to get some fire damage there, but make sure you have an energy shield base so you have enough ES to use EB with your Malevolence. Same with your body armor. You want to just make sure it's an armor ES base so that you get a little ES to make sure you have enough for your Malevolence with Divine Blessing. Good pickups here are the Coral Craft, if you can get Fizz taken as on your helmet, and then the Gravicious Craft for Fizz taken as elemental damage on your body armor. Big, huge pickup that you want to make sure you have for the whole build is going to be the increased critical strike chance if you haven't crit recently. This is a mandatory boot enchant on every elemental overload build, because if you haven't crit recently, you really want to. And if you have crit recently, it doesn't matter if you crit again. So this is really, really important to just have high elemental overload uptime so that you've always crit recently. It's a huge chunk. It's super nice. And without these, we go from 13 crit strike chance to 6, right? So it's pretty much big, okay? As far as amulet goes, stop multi. Dot multi is strength if you can get your strength here. Otherwise, get strength on another piece. And just have dot multi and something else here. Resistance. Maybe dexterity. Something like that. Right, the Stygian here. You could get your strength here instead and get your dex on your amulet. And then everything else is kind of just res and whatever. If you can get a cool thing there. I know that the careful planning here is a corruption on Viridian Jewels. I don't know how rare this is going to be as a corruption, but it is really good and you will want it eventually. So it's going to be in the trees, even though you probably won't get it right away. Until you can get this, you can just replace this with a rare dexterity jewel. So I have one, I believe I have one in this POE. You just get like 14 dex and then some fire damage. You put that there, and then you can pick up a 30 dex node here, and you can do another 2 points for another 30 here. So you are going to be wasting like 3 points. Otherwise you are wasting 1 point and then just get a dex roll on one of your pieces of gear. But, like, don't be a little weenie whiner saying that you can't get one of these, because, it's really easy to solve that issue. If you can't solve dexterity problems on your build, this probably isn't the game for you. Anyways, gatekeeping, Path of Exile, I am. As far as the tree goes, you just want to make sure that you have Spiritual Command before you start mapping. This gives you extra attack speed. It increases your attack speed according to how much attack speed your minions also have. So we have a lot of extra minion attack speed nodes here because we're on the way to Spiritual Aid and we're in the Templar region. Templar also gets some minion damage, some minion attack speed. It's some pretty nice stuff to just get your shield charge bumping. And because of that, we don't actually have to use faster attacks on shield charge unless you want to. You can swap Culling Strike for faster attacks and be super fast. I might just do that because let's be real. Who's going to Culling Strike on their shield charge? Okay, you could do it if you want. I'll add it down here. I'll let, it'll be an option. Okay, if you want to Culling Strike, you can Culling Strike, but you could just be faster too. It's probably better. I'm just cheesing damage. All right, little damage cuck. Once you start leveling to 82, you see we're going to pick up a lot of spell block nodes. We don't need glancing blows at all. I shouldn't have ever spec'd this. There we go. So because we're using Tempest Shield, we're going to be capped on our spell block for Wave of Conviction with just picking up some spell block nodes, which is really nice. And then the last little bits is like life, and then this faster ignite stuff, which is really good damage, but it's probably better that you don't die all the time than it is to have some extra damage, right? Anyways, that's the Wave of Conviction setup. It's pretty simple, pretty fun, pretty easy. Here's the budget Maw swap. So there are 4 things really. There's kind of 3, but there's 4 that you have to make sure that you have. Well, there's kind of 5, okay. You got to make sure you get the Scourge. And Wave of Conviction, that setup is good enough. I saw Ziz earlier release like a whole build of just playing Wave of Conviction. The build's good enough to clear your Atlas and do some farming strats, especially Harbinger, which is going to be really good this league. So, dude, if you have like Ignite Proliferation or just Obliteration Explosions on Harbinger with Ignite stuff, it's a blast, okay? So if you're looking to make some money, Harbinger is going to be really good, and Expedition is going to be really good for you. But anyway, to Maw, because you do need some things. You got to get the Scourge. You don't got to get it. You can do without it, but it saves you a few points. It gives you a lot of damage because it gives you 70 minion damage, and it gives you minion attack speed, and it makes the minion damage that you have 150% effect on your damage. So it's 50% more of what you'd get from spiritual aid on the tree. It's just, it's killer. Your shield is going to be that one shield that you get from the map with the cold lady and the fire lady. That shield you get at the end, you're going to use one of those. If you have a choice, grab the ignite one with the fire Aegis, because you can get freeze immunity by upgrading your Pantheon, and then you have Tempest Shield for shock, and now you can't be ignited. So you're pretty much ailment immune while mapping. And then obviously you got to get Maw of Mischief. Now, you also need Barracks Respite. You got to have it, or you can use Ignite Prolif. If this is crazy expensive, you just use Ignite Prolif. But if you had it from Wave of Conviction, you just bring it over. Now you got Maw, right? Because you have to. It's a Maw build. But you get this shield so that your golem gets boosted because the shield has +2 level of socketed gems. Now, because it has +2 level of socketed gems, you're also going to put a level 1 Empower here. It's the same thing going on as Skin of the Loyal, I believe it is, where it gives +2 gems, and then you would always put a Empower in there, because that +2 socketed gems isn't just active gems, it's your supports too. So your Empower gets +2 in addition. So even a level 1 Empower here is really good to boost your Stone Golem up, and we got to boost it so that it has as much life as possible. So you buy a level 21 Stone Golem as soon as you can. If you can't, you just do a level 20, okay? It's fine. Then you got Minion Life and Empower here. But that's why we do the shield. Let's keep going through the gear, though. Let's not swap. Everything else is pretty generic. Life, res, you do the Gravicious Craft, and then you do the Determ and the Aura effect on your body armor. Your glove, this is really big. You want to make sure, as a high priority after you get these uniques, that you get the fire exposure on your gloves, so you don't have to self-cast Wave of Conviction. If you have to do a Wave of Conviction, you have to drop something. You'd probably just drop your Defiance banner until you have that on your gloves, because our sockets are like super tight right now. You could get an unset ring if you need for Wave of Conviction, but yeah, you got to have a way to apply exposure without it being a pain in the ass. So you just do exposure on your glove. The dot multi you can get later, but the exposure is the important part. On your boots, we've got like the crit enchant still. Super important that you still keep that, and then you just get life res. And the important mod here is the Scorched Ground. You want to try to get the Scorched Ground as soon as you can, and then you just like walk on the boss, and they get minus however much resistance. It's just really good. It's not as good as it used to be now that we have flammability and LE weakness at full power, but it's still minus res. It's a lot of damage. Here it's the same. Oh, we didn't talk about the anointment on the Wave of Conviction setup, but the anointment was deflection, just so you guys have endurance charges, a little more fizz mitigation, and a little extra attack block. But I just wanted a way to get endurance charges. Pretty nice, just so you have extra fizz DR. Otherwise, you could do the same anoint that we're going to do on Maw, which is going to be Ash, Frost, and Storm. This gives increased effect of non-damaging ailments and elemental damage, and that's really good because it's going to increase the shock, because we are still shocking because we're elementalist. So it increases your shock, and we already have a pretty big hit, right? Our average hit with a Maw explosion at this gear setup is 1 million. So we are going to hit... we're either hitting or we get very close to the shock cap. I think it's like 50 with this, right? No, I guess she doesn't give the bonus. You have to get it from here. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like 50 or something, right? Whatever it is, you're hitting it because you already do so much and you're getting increased effect of non-damage ailments. It's really nice. And then that also increases your Scorch. So it's just all around a bunch of damage for that anointment. It's really good. Your big pickup on the ring is crafting minion life. I think it's an unveil. Otherwise, just look at your crafting bench and it'll tell you what map to go to get it when the league starts, because they're changing the maps around. And your belt, you pick up a Stygian and you use Shrieking if you can afford it. Otherwise, Screaming, Feared, right? Because we're spooky, because it's Death Wish. Oh. And that gives you a minion life on your belt. So you just use a couple of those so you get like 2 crappy res, or you get a crappy res and a stat, right? You just go for some really basic stuff because it's the first gear set and you really just want the life. You know, you get a little res, you craft life, whatever. Here You want to get minion life and minion damage if you used a minion skill recently. It's real good stuff. Just increases your damage. We're always trying to increase our minion life and the minion damage because the minion damage affects us. We are what's dealing damage, not our minions. I should have explained that probably a little earlier, but if you follow the POE, you're all good. Don't be deceived, by the way. This is also something I should have explained earlier, but hey, watch out with these people in YouTube comments. The damage here, you gotta be careful. You can't do combined DPS. You just have to do total dot, because this would act as if I'm like always being able to explode all of my minions, but I'm not. I can really only do the big ones when it's stone golem time. So the total dot TPS is going to be the real number, and that's like 10 million with this gear set, which is wild. It's not what you saw in the Maven clip at all. I think that was like 4. I think it was like probably closer to 4 million or something like that. Just because the curse changes hadn't gone through, and I didn't really have the optimal gear or whatever. I kind of just threw some stuff together. But mainly it's the curse changes, just because Maven had the 66% reduced effective curses on her, so my flammability and LE weakness were doing nothing. They're just garbage. So yeah, this is the early Maven forming gear set. We've got all the trees here, but the trees are pretty much the same as before, except with this one. I guess we'll go over the auras. We have to swap out Tempest Shield for Herald of Purity, because you have to use Herald of Purity to clear, or your clear is going to feel really, really bad. And that's because I kind of explained it already, but when you kill something, it'll spawn a sentinel, and you can use that sentinel to do your Death Wish explosion, because you have to explode your minions. And it takes too long to wait for your golems to always be resummoned, and it'd be too annoying to summon a skeleton every single pack. So just using Herald of Purity is a really easy way to boost your clear speed by a bunch. And it's the only reason that this has pretty good clear speed, right? It's not even like bad. It's good with Ignite Prolif. It's just good shit. But because of that, you have to go Glancing Blow to cap your spell block, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And then we just have Grace and Determination. So you have enough evasion rating where it doesn't feel like ass, and you got enough armor where you get a big molten shell and you're not dying to fizz damage all the time. Your Death Wish links are pretty self-explanatory. You would just swap out Infused Channeling for Ignite Prolif if you don't have Barracks for Spite yet. Same as the Wave of Conviction setup. And then we still have Malevolence. You got to summon Chaos Golem for extra Fizz DR there, which is really nice. Your body armor doesn't need to be 6-linked because we use Death Wish. You can use a 4-link and a 2-link, or you just need a 6 socket with a 4-link on it. And then we just use Arcanist Brand now. No more Vixen entrapment shenanigans. Your Arcanist Brand is going to cast your weakness, your flammability, and your flame surge. You got Skeletons and Defiance Banner, and those 2 little sockets down there. And in your boots, you got Shield Charge. I give up faster attacks because we get about as much attack speed as faster attacks gives from Spiritual Command. So we can save ourselves a socket. If you want faster attacks, you're going to have to get an unset ring and then use Conviction in that. But that's up to you, man, if you want to do that. I think it'll be fine, but, you know, if you can clear a little bit faster with that, then by all means, you know, do it. P no B, dude. Number 3 is going to be Suppression. So this is where we're going to hit the dot cap. We're hitting the dot limit of like 34, 35 million damage. And to do that, you have to give up all the spell block nodes on the tree. So instead of going spell block and relying on the tree to mitigate spell damage, we're going to shift that to our gear to mitigate spell damage by picking up spell suppression. Now, we still have to use a few points to get spell suppression, but it's actually incredibly helpful to have spell suppression because the mastery that gives you crit strike chance. So now we get 100% crit strike chance, so that our LE overload uptime is much, much better. And now we have like 20 crit strike on our explosions, which is really nice because you're always going to do like 6 or more explosions. So we pretty much have 100% LE overload uptime, kind of. But yeah, it's really, really nice. This is the level 95 tree. You see we just dropped all the spell block. We don't even come down here to the tireless wheel or go glancing blows or anything. And this frees up points for us to like have a different pathing this way to get spell suppression and do Lethe Shade if you're doing bosses. I would only pick this up if you're doing bosses. And then we move our careful planning right down here as well. Still getting the extra curse, faster ignites. And then we have a large cluster set up here. And to hit spell suppression, you have to get a small cluster with spell suppression. And I thought really long and really hard, and I tried to find every single way for us to cap spell suppression without using this, because it's really stupid to use something like this. But there is just no other way aside when we have to give up our shield and our helmet. We just don't have another slot to get spell suppression on, and we can't travel all the way down here or anywhere else in shadow to get more spell suppression. We even have to anoint Innervate to cap our spell suppression, but it's fine because we still have the dot cap. So shout out to Manny. You guys know Manny too. He's a GigaChat SSFer. I looked at his profile to see how he capped his spell suppression, because I was really hoping he didn't just use something stupid like a small cluster and his anointment. But yeah, this is literally the only option. So yeah, hey, thanks for forcing my hand. Anyways, with this setup, this is for bossing only. You are not going to map with this POB. Do not map with this path of building, because we're dropping spiritual command and convocation. The convocation mastery that gives you extra cooldown recovery rate and lets you convocate faster. Because we're dropping that, it's going to feel like ass for mapping. So just don't do it. All right. You can try to rig your own tree up, drop like the faster ignites, maybe Lethe Shade and some other stuff to come back down here and get the convocation mastery and whatnot. But for this setup, I'm going to assume, since you're playing Maw of Mischief as a league starter that was marketed exclusively as a bosser, that you're going to be farming bosses. So I made this POB with farming bosses in mind for hitting the dot cap, because you don't really need to hit dot cap for mapping, right? Like, what are you doing taking this into maps? You could do it, but I don't know what you're doing. So yeah, that's the tree. Big changes there. As far as the skills go, we drop Grace because we're not mapping anymore, and we're going to pick up Purity of Elements so that we have full ailment immunity and to ease our gearing now that we need suppression everywhere. And then Defiance Banner. Golem is the exact same, except now you get as high of a level of Empower as you can to boost your Stone Golem up all the way to like level 29. You get you get 4 Awakened Gems. They're all really good. You still have the Arcanist brand set up for your Flame Surge, Flammability, Ally Weakness. You can still use your Convocation here in your gloves, but you shouldn't really need it too much while bossing. It can be kind of helpful. But you got Summon Skeletons, Flame Dash, Convocation. And then our body, we've got 2 different little link setups. We got Stone Golem, we got Shield Charge, Molten Shell, and then we've got our Malevolence here. And actually, since we have an extra socket here, I'm going to move the Stone Golem, or the Chaos Golem over here, and we're going to do cast when damage taken. Now, I was, why I had that socket open is I was using Combustion, and I was proccing Combustion with Flame Dash, because it doesn't work with Flame Surge. I've seen a lot of people link Combustion to Flame Surge, and that doesn't work, because Flame Surge can't ignite. So it can't be, it has no benefit with Combustion. It does nothing. So yeah. So now you get cast when damage taken again. That's really nice, actually. So you don't have to have that on LMB. And we don't need the combustion damage anyway. You can do it for extra damage, but with this setup, we're already hitting dot cap, right? If you explode like 8 minions, it's like gonna be too much past that, right? You got your skeletons, your golems, etc. But yeah, that's the skill gems. As far as gear goes, now you have a Magna Eclipse, which is when you take both of those shields, you vendor them with a fusing, and it gives you a big one. So now you have Elemental Aegis. That's the only reason you do this. Well, and it gives you extra armor. You get a lot of armor from this too. But you get Elemental Aegis, whereas before with the Invictus, we had Fire Aegis only. So now it can do cold and lightning. You get a free little bubble. Your body armor, because we are hitting the dot cap, I'm going to expect people to be okay with having fractured gear and crafting a little bit to get 35 million dot damage. So yeah, you're gonna grab like fractured suppression or fractured res, and then use essences to get your suffixes and eldritch currency to get your life and to open a prefix up so that you can craft. And it's gonna be the same everywhere. Your gloves, you're gonna do the same, but you're gonna craft minion damage at the end. Your boots, you're just gonna craft move speed there. It's gonna be the exact same, except now you want the, while a unique enemy in your presence, you drop Scorch Ground because that one lasts a little bit longer. Your amulet, you're gonna get fractured +1 fizz, and then you're gonna use rage essences until you hit dot multi. In your ring 1, your left ring slot, you're gonna use Polaric Devastation to get Ash, which is 20% more damage, and you get a lot of res here. So you can use the res catalyst on this spot if you need that extra resistance, and you get some crit. It's actually a really nice ring. For your second ring, we're gonna swap over to a bone ring because you can get 30 minion damage rolled on a bone ring. You can get this fractured, and then you can even roll a ring that has, you would roll it with a stat essence, so like rage for strength or something. You could even get minion damage or life fractured here, and then roll for the other one with an essence, and then do like veiled chaos for life, or you know, whatever. But yeah, if you can just buy one of these, like I don't think anyone's using bone rings right now. Should be pretty easy to pick one up, and then you get a lot of damage because your scourge is converting like 150% of this into damage for you. It's just really, really nice. And the belt is going to be pretty much the same, except you just get deafening feared essence on a Stygian until you hit big life and big strength and res or whatever, right? It's kind of just a fill. And then the same jewel as before. Your jewels, you're going to run 2 primordial mites and an anima stone. It sucks that you can't fit a third in, but you'd have to get so much dex on your gear to drop this jewel that it's probably just too much of a pain. It's probably just way too much of a pain. But if you can drop the careful planning for another primordial mite. And so that would give you that extra +1 golem. And you just use an anima stone because it'll make your stone golem uptime on the boss a little bit better, so that you almost can expect more stone golems to be up, and then you can do your little explosions more and like fish for EO, or right, because it's not always going to be super clean. With this setup, honestly, you're hitting so much damage anyway, you probably don't have to worry about this, but it's kind of just nice, right? Like sometimes your stone golem's a dumbass and he'll run into like whatever it is, right? He'll just run into something and then he dies, right? I think they can run into Maven's beams or something. And yeah, that's really stupid. I really hope that changes. But yeah, sometimes it just happens, man. Unlucko. But we use primordial mites because they give damage if you've summoned a golem, and you're always resummoning your golems because they're dying constantly. And you also get extra golem life there. This is beat out by a rare jewel, but the rare jewel you'd have to get is really good. So it's just so much easier to get primordial mites. And probably cheaper too, but you could get like a really big rare jewel that has like fire dot multi, minion life, minion damage, and potentially even one more stat besides that, and it could beat the primordial mite out. But yeah, I mean, I just threw it in there because it's going to be assumedly easy with the new recipe or drop location or whatever it is. And now for the last POB. Holy, this video is dragging on, and it's 1 in the morning. I've got to go to the gym tomorrow, so we're just going to boot this up quick. This is dot cap against Ubers. I actually had to try to get damage. Before, I didn't have to try much. You see, I didn't even use 2 medium clusters, and we didn't get too much on our gear. Now you got to try for your damage. So to hit dot cap against Ubers, you're giving up more life. So we only have 91 life on the tree. You're getting 2 medium clusters that have the minion life on them, and you get a little life regen there too. And you got your primordial bond still. And we're even going as so far as picking up the new curse effect nodes. I think this is where this one is. If not, I'll update the tree and whatever, okay? But yeah, we're even getting the curse effect because we are using punishment now. And we're using punishment by fracturing the delve mod that gives an additional curse onto your chest piece. This says hunter item. Don't believe it. I just had to put it as a hunter item because the mod wasn't showing up and I was getting annoyed. But with the new fracturing orbs, you can fracture that delve additional curse on your chest. And that's insane. So now you can use punishment. And I'm going to keep it a buck with you, okay? YouTube watchers. We're only hitting the dot limit when they're on less than 50% life. Okay, I baited you. You can say it. Okay, I did bait you. But I mean, come on. If you're dealing 22 million damage, the boss is going to get to half-life pretty quick. And then the punishment kicks in, and they get to 0% life pretty quick. So I think it'll be okay. All right, you guys, it'll be all right. But yeah, I'm going to keep that ticked. Yeah, pretty insane. Your gearing, though, yeah, that's going to be expensive. Probably not too much, actually. Fracturing orbs shouldn't be too crazy, right? Surely not. But yeah, same as before, except now we're kind of just juicing stuff up. So now you're even getting the minion life on your boots with an essence. So now you're rolling and giving up like stats or res or strength or whatever on your boot to get minion life. So everything's being much more strict. Your amulet's the same, but now here's the ring I was talking about before, where you get fractured minion life, and then you roll for increased minion damage as well as some other stats. And then your belt is just going to be some chaos res, minion life, big life, and then a little bit of res, just so you don't have like 0 chaos res, because you probably want to farm some Cyrus this league. But yeah, this one's not even like that much more expensive. The big swap is just going to be this additional curse, the mediums, and then it's going to be like optimizing all of your jewels, like getting everything all set up, changing. I think we changed some of these around from the last one, but maybe not. And then just it's the punishment. This is already at level 9 to take into account the nerf of the punishment effectiveness and whatnot. But yeah, that's the big one. Oh, I can change this around too. I think we can put Defiance Banner in this glove. Let's put Defiance Banner here, and then you can still maintain your cast when damage taken. And even though this gave up a lot of defense, a lot of life and whatnot, it's still not even super squishy if your Molten Shell's up. With Molten Shell down though, it is. But I mean, it's 35 million dot damage. You should be able to just like one-shot every single boss, every single Uber with this. You know, Cyrus should be like instant phased every time. So you shouldn't really have to do anything. And if you do, then you got Vol Molten Shell and a Molten Shell that you can use as tools to clean up your F up. But yeah, that's Maw of Mischief. If you want to farm bosses, there you go, dude. Does dot cap, which is crazy. 35 million dot DPS against normal bosses or Ubers. Pretty cool. I'll catch you guys. Like, subscribe. See you guys later. All right, bye-bye. This has been way too long. Bye.